The following podcast may contain adult language and an abundance of bodies. So get ready, nerds, because we're talking The Headhunter. Hey everyone, welcome to the Salty Nerd Podcast. I am your fill-in host, Matthew Kadish, sitting in here for Alex because he is out doing stuff. But we're talking about a very interesting independent movie today called The Headhunter, which was the pick of one of my fantastic panel of nerds, Matt Vader 74. Why don't you tell us about why you decided to make us watch this movie?
You know, I don't even know how I found this movie. It was
Me neither.
It was okay. It was just one of those things that I found and I saw, and it instantly intrigued me. We watch a lot of weird little independent things around here, like Wormwood, and it's in that same vein. What else would I like Viking stuff.
You do. You love your barbarians.
Anything with swords and axes and monsters. And,
I'm with you
Vikings
on that.
and,
Yeah, I'm with you.
I'm gonna check out.
Yep.
And when I found out this thing's lineage, I guess would be the best way to say it, I was even more intrigued because it was directed by the same dude who made that other awful fucking movie that we watched called Thankskilling, which is right up your guys' alley.
Which is a movie I made you watch.
Okay, now the special effects are starting to make more sense now that I realize it's the same guy.
I went, Viking, Monster Hunter, Thankskilling director. Jude is going to love this movie.
And we're going to get into it.
Yeah.
And with us is our ambassador of estrogen, Jude.
Oh!
Yes, how you doing today?
I'm great. I cannot wait to talk about this movie with you, V.
Okay.
And filling in for Alex is Conspiracy Tom. Thank you for joining us today.
I'm not filling in for Alex. You're filling in for Alex. I'm sitting in Alex's chair.
That's very true.
And thank you, Vader, for bringing this movie into my life.
You are very welcome.
I just want to tell you about how I feel about it. Okay. And I've been keeping it really cool, right? Like I'm not showing my cards, right? I'm like,
I guess
I'm gonna keep this one close to the old chest,
All right,
and I'm gonna play it.
Well, I hope you guys liked
the break.
It's not gonna like break my heart or nothing if you guys didn't.
No, I don't think it will. I'm not telling you. See, you're just assuming.
I know.
You're assuming I have feelings.
Yeah, that's true.
I have no feelings. I'm going to tell you how I.
Okay, I can't wait to hear it.
You're welcome.
Yes, and speaking of feelings, it's time for us to take a break. We'll be right back after this quick break, and we're going to talk about this movie in ways that I don't think many people are going to expect. So be right back. Hey everyone, welcome back. And if you want to help support the show, be sure to go to saltynerdclub.com and sign up for our members area. There you get access to a huge back catalog of members-only reviews. We tend to focus on classic science fiction series in the members area. So we've done stuff like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Foundation, Star Trek, the original series, Doctor Who.
We're doing Battlestar Galactica right now.
Yeah. We've got a lot of content back there. In fact, some of our members are complaining that there's too much content because they don't have enough time
No one's
to watch
complaining
that
about
stuff.
that.
But we are really happy to interact with our Patreons. We get them into our Discord server, and they get like their own special message board on there. So there's a lot of benefits to being a Patreon and a member, and it's only $5 a month. So you go a long way towards supporting us, and you get a lot of content in return. Anyway, speaking of content, let's talk about this movie, The Headhunter. Jude, take it away. What is this movie all about?
2018, The Headhunter, not rated, with a runtime of 1 hour, 12 minutes. This had a budget of $30,000. Vader, do you know what it brought into the box?
I have no idea.
Want to guess?
$50,000.
All right. Tomas?
Wait, this is a theatrical release?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. It had a theatrical release.
I would love to see this movie in the theater.
I'm right there with Vader. How much did it cost again?
$30,000.
30 grand.
Well, I'm actually more impressed. Okay, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I figured his armor set probably cost $30,000. It was a very impressive armor set. I probably made $30,000.
Okay, I think you will be surprised to learn that this movie had a budget of $30,000 and made a box office of $380,000.
That sounds right. Honestly, it sounds right. Yeah.
That is a huge markup.
It really did.
A good return on investment.
Heck
Yes.
yeah, man.
Yes.
If I gave you $30,000,
That's like a $30 million movie making $300 million at the box office.
Exactly.
You
That's
got
incredible.
Wow, that is exactly how
Add a
math
zero.
works. That is it. This is how math works. Just move that little
Yep,
decimal.
a
over.
10x return, as they say.
Yeah,
That's great. I want Headhunter Part 2
Yeah.
with 3 people in the cast.
If you gave me $3 and I gave you back $38, you'd call that a good deal.
Fuck yeah, I
That's a
would.
good deal.
That
Yep.
is amazing.
That's a good deal.
Let me tell you what it's about.
Can you?
I think I can. I'm going to try anyway.
It's not that complicated.
All
No,
right.
it's
When a creature kills the young daughter of a warrior, he spends the rest of his days tracking down monsters, killing them, and taking their heads for his wall collection. He has a mystery goo that keeps him alive and heals his injuries after his battles. When a strong wind knocks the goo jar over, spilling the contents onto the remains of the ghoul that killed his daughter, the spinal cord creature reanimates and starts searching for a body. Just so happens there's one buried out in the yard, and the creature's like, oh, hey, I know her. And without his magic goo to keep him alive, the warrior tracks down the thing that has once again taken his daughter.
So
that's fascinating.
one of the interesting things about the title of this movie. So originally it was called The Head, and test audiences hated that, so they changed it to The Headhunter. Yeah. So like you could say that the main character of this movie is the headhunter because he cuts off the heads of the creatures he kills and mounts them on his wall, or you could say it's the head hunter, where it's the monster head that's hunting. So it's an interesting kind of play on what this movie's about. But I want to hear Vader's take on this. Vader, what were your thoughts on this movie?
So when I learned that this movie only cost $30,000 and we get what we get with this movie, I was stunned. I was absolutely stunned at the quality and the look and the feel of this movie. Now you can tell.
I'm with you. When I heard 30,000, I'm actually very impressed.
I mean, it's literally one dude. It's a one-man show, except for about 12 seconds where they have another actress that plays his daughter, and they show a couple guys up on a tower
in the distance.
In the distance, that could have been like The Grip.
Yes,
it could have been anybody. Probably was somebody. Probably was the director.
Yeah, it could have been anybody.
Yeah.
Somebody.
And it was a 4-person crew. So you had like the director, you had the producer, you had the cameraman, and then you had the actor, and that was all that was on this movie.
The only thing that you can tell the budget when you kind of get into the Halloween store heads on the wall a little bit,
right?
But you really got to like zoom in and kind of pay attention to what they're doing there, Yeah. But overall, this movie just really intrigued me, and I think it would intrigue me more just because, like I said, it's in my zone. It's like in my Viking, my barbarian, my sword and sorcery stuff that I really like.
Yeah, when Matt told me what we're watching,
you immediately said, "Oh, Vader picked this one out."
Yeah, well, was it The Headhunter? I had no idea what it meant.
Yeah.
And then when I Googled, to figure out where to watch this movie, I'm like, it's a Vader pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom texted me. He was like, "What's the theme?"
It's like I pick out movies that doesn't cost anything to make but look like they made it.
Yeah.
Cost $1 million. You guys like to watch movies that cost millions of dollars but look like they spent $5 on the set. And
I feel like you're trying to say we're not the same person.
I think I am.
Why are you attacking me?
Are you saying you're better than us?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Not at all. But
my Thanksgiving, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I watched this movie, and the other thing that was interesting is like it's only an hour long. It's an hour and like 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
That's a television show.
Right.
That's an episode of Game of Thrones.
I
or something,
appreciated that.
and I appreciated that too. But it's just, I didn't know what to expect when I started watching this movie. I had no idea. I'd never heard of it before. No. And in the story just kind of is intriguing. It's about this. He's basically a
what is it
hunter.
About?
Huh?
He's basically a bounty hunter.
Yeah, he's a bounty hunter that works for this lord that lives on the castle on the hill. And every time a new monster or whatever comes in the valley, he sends him an arrow, blows a horn, and says, "Hey, I got a job for you."
Yes.
But the setup,
he's the king's monster hunter.
Basically, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and but the setup was he had a daughter, and one of the monsters that he killed his daughter before he managed to kill the monster. That was the beginning, the first 5 minutes of
No,
this
the
movie.
monster got away, and so like he's hunting
Right,
monsters in order to
She doesn't die in the beginning.
No, she does. That's
in the opening scene.
Yes, that's when she gets killed.
When she falls asleep. That's her dying.
Yeah.
I didn't get that.
No, she doesn't die in that opening scene. Basically, there's a point where in voiceover, he talks about how he wasn't able to protect his daughter and a monster killed her.
Well, the monster killed his daughter and he buried her in the front yard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then time goes by and the monster comes back and he has to go hunt this monster down again.
I feel like he should have built that house while he still had his daughter. They were just living in a tent.
And the other thing is, he's more than just a monster hunter. He's more than a warrior. He's kind of a.
He's a witcher.
He's kind of he's a witcher. He's an alchemist.
Yeah, he's a witcher.
He's an alchemist. He's
using potions and things.
He's
a
making
witcher.
potions from things that like make this regenerative glop, this goo that he keeps in this jar.
And that dog skeleton that he had drowned in his backyard.
So
I don't know what that was all about.
Every time he goes on a mission and comes back, he's always kind of fucked up.
I'm gonna say,
and he puts the goop on him and falls asleep, and he's healed overnight.
Yeah.
if this movie's an hour long, like you say, 45 minutes of it is him hurt and rubbing poop on himself.
Yeah.
That's 80 minutes of this movie. It's a 60-minute long.
One of the interesting aspects of this movie is that we never see like any actual battles. It's always the aftermath of the battle.
Yeah.
So it's him like coming home wounded with like the monster's head in the bag.
They couldn't afford another actor.
And what we see is basically the aftermath of like, like his wounds. Like every time like he takes off his armor, we see like he's messed up like badly. And then he puts like the magic healing potion on him. And then the next day he wakes up and he's like super hungover and he's like pissing out like this like,
oh my God. That scene when he's peeing the next day.
God.
It's painful.
Yeah. And that's one of the interesting aspects of this movie is that it's such a focus on the downtime. It's not the actual like exciting monster hunting stuff. It's seeing like the aftermath of that and the wear and tear it has on him because he's such a haunted character because he's obsessed with, he's basically Batman. In fact, his armor looks a lot like Batman-ish. And so like when like he's haunted by his stuff, but like he's like super committed to making these potions and like doing all this training and getting ready for like the next monster so that he can get his revenge eventually.
He needed to put that potion in a cupboard.
Well, what's interesting
for real, the rest of it's chained up, and he's like, "Let me just put the magic one
on the windowsill, basically."
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that is that so at the beginning when they show him making the potion. All that stuff is chained up. It's very secure, but the loose window flap actually knocks over something small like that's up on the windowsill. So they're set up for that. And so like later on when he puts that thing up there just absentmindedly because he's injured, he doesn't think about it until like it gets knocked over and it spills on the head. Because the thing that he does is first thing he does when he walks in, he throws the head against like the thing, and then he's like, I gotta like get my shit together.
Yeah, the interesting part to this movie to me is the lack of action. I think. I mean,
yes,
I like watching this movie because I knew the budget. Somehow I knew the budget before I watched this movie, and watching all of the tricks and the shortcuts and the story tricks that they use to save money, but you didn't really miss it. I felt very interesting. We're interesting and intriguing. This guy says 3 lines, I think, in this entire movie.
Yeah, there's not a lot of dialogue.
But is
it a troll?
Yeah,
it might have been a troll.
Yeah,
that's about it.
But
go back to sleep and leave her alone.
Yeah, if you pay attention though, they tell you the whole story. I mean, the whole thing with the magic jar of shit is explained in this montage of him making it in this movie.
Yeah,
it's very interesting.
A big inspiration for this movie, according to the director, was Quest for Fire, which is basically like a silent film. It's all told visually, and same with this movie is basically it's a silent film. Everything is told in visuals, which is really impressive. But I want to talk about Jordan Downey for a minute, who's the writer director on this movie. He did a schlocky horror film called Thankskilling when he was in college. The budget for that was about $3,600. Vader, I rewatched our review of that last night, and you were not kind about that movie.
Fuck that movie.
But what's funny about watching this movie is like you can definitely see like parallels between Thankskilling and this film in terms of like the creature effects and some of the shooting. And obviously Jordan Downey has matured as a director because I found this movie to be quite brilliant, actually. And what's interesting about it is that his producer's family had this kind of like compound in Portugal where they had like this big, huge, expansive, like, piece of land in Portugal. And the house that they shot at here was actually like 100-year-old like mill basically that was preserved on this land. And so they were like, we should shoot something here. And they came up with an idea for like a medieval horror movie. And they were at a writer's retreat and they were trying to think of like, story to tell. And they came up with this image of like a battle hardened warrior kind of like wounded, dragging like a sack with a head in it to his home base. And they built this story around that initial concept. So his little hut in the movie is like real, kind of like how Norsemen did it with like the museum. So this was a preserved place that they actually shot in. There's a funny story about how they went to, the Halloween store, like the day after Halloween and bought all the clearance stuff.
I can see that.
And so like they basically treated all of that to make it look real, and they had to like shoot it in a certain way to like make it look like it was actually like metal and wood and stuff like that, but it's all plastic. And all the heads that he mounts on his wall are just Halloween masks that were like stuffed and treated to make him look more realistic. So they did this thing like super low budget. That the guy who they cast in this, Christopher Rygh, I don't know,
Rygh, I don't know, something. I don't know
so like he was a Norwegian actor, and they found him on a casting website, and they were like, this guy has the right look. And so they called him up, and they had like a couple phone conversations with him, and then they cast him without ever actually meeting him or auditioning him, because he just had to have the right look. And this dude looks the part,
he
man.
Really does.
Like it was a really interesting casting choice, and he carries the movie. Like he's in every scene in the movie. And it's kind of funny because like you watch the way this is shot. Thankskilling was basically shot on like a VHS or a high 8 video camera. This one had like an actual like had some production value to it. They had some drone shots with like CGI mountains in the background to kind of give it a little bit of scope. And this whole movie is basically like a character study, and it's set in this like weird, fucked up medieval fantasy land. And he basically is a Witcher, but he's also kind of like Batman because his armor is like totally badass. His armor is all leather, by the way.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Yeah, they just treated some of it to make it look like it was like metal. And the creature effects, like when the head actually comes back, I'm like, that's Turkey from Thankskilling.
Yes.
Very much, right?
Yeah. The only thing that this movie is missing is the weird, fucked up sense of humor that Thankskilling had,
and all the boobs.
Yeah, and all the boobs. This movie took itself way more seriously than Thankskilling.
I think this is a very capable movie, and I think if I watched it again, I might appreciate it. But the whole time I was watching it, I was like, what is this movie? And then by the time we get to the end and the creature comes back to life and it's so silly, I was like, seriously, what is this movie? And then when it ended, I was just like, I don't think I liked that.
It's just like a creature's head with like a spine crawling around
and
going,
it's like
my
body. It reminded me of the Gremlins going, Diga, Diga, Diga.
Well, you guys know how
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, very spooky.
you guys
I'm a
did
voice
catch
actor.
that the magic potion got spilled on it, right?
What?
Wait, what?
You didn't see that?
Yeah, we all saw
No,
that.
yeah.
Okay, I was getting the impression that you didn't pick up
Oh,
on
no,
that.
no. Yeah, no, I got that.
Okay.
No, I was saying like
No, I didn't see
the
that.
way that when the creature
Very
comes.
confusing.
Fucking
Shut up,
weirdo.
Tom. We brought you here to be pretty,
I know.
not to talk. No, I was saying like the silliness of the creature once it reanimates took the movie to a place of ridiculousness that we didn't have leading up to it.
I don't know. It was still scary and weird.
That one totally was
through the eye holes, and he's like trying
that was the one scene in this movie where it was the camera from the helmet cam.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
They literally just put the camera inside the helmet and just like filmed around like that.
That did, but luckily,
I dug it. It was
that only
fine.
lasted about 10 seconds of the
No,
movie.
it was fine. Honestly, the pencil sharpener that he uses to make his
spikes,
his monster spikes, is probably the best part of the whole movie. Because at no point do they talk about it at all. There's nothing discussed. Like they don't talk anything. But he just has this pencil sharpener that he uses to make freaking spikes that he puts things on heads on. He's like, yeah. And every time he's like,
Oh, those spikes were
grind
brutal.
these up. I loved it.
Yeah. And then when he comes home and he just like two-handed shoves a face into the spike.
Yeah. So this is going to bother everybody.
Okay.
If they just replaced him with Jason Momoa, it would have made $10 million.
Yeah.
Because he looks like Jason Momoa. And if it just was Jason Momoa, this movie would have made $1 million.
Well, what makes him look like Jason Momoa? Because he has a big beard?
He looks, if you put a side by
He
side.
looks like every barbarian Viking dude I've ever seen.
So does Jason Momoa. And I know his name.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if you did that and you literally just put 3 monster fights in it, you would have had a really good movie. Like it would have played in theaters and you would have seen it.
Cost another $30,000.
I know, but I don't think it would have been that hard to get $1 million and make this movie a decent movie, right? To something to, I mean, it's just a character study of a guy hurt all the time, rubbing poop on himself. And like, while it is entertaining, it could have been an actual movie that people would have actually seen if you put Jason Momoa in it.
Plenty of people seen this. It made $380,000.
But, I think it's like saying, oh man, this movie would have been way better if it had just had, literally any other actor in it that's famous right now.
I didn't say literally. I just said Jason Momoa.
or Henry Cavill. Let's put fucking Henry Cavill in it. Would have been way better if we put Henry Cavill.
You mean The Witcher?
The Witcher.
This would have just been a Witcher movie. And it would have been better. It would have been better.
I don't know. It's fine.
Well, I think that the actor in it is doing a great job.
When I found out it was $30,000, I learned that at this table, and that does completely change how I feel about this movie. I figured it cost $1 million, and it probably made $1 million because it was enough to get its return on investment. Is what I figured. When I found out $30,000, like, we could make this movie right now.
We could.
The 4 of us just throw it in a couple bucks. We could literally make this movie.
And I think that's
why.
I
dig that. I dig that.
And I think that's why was so intrigued by this movie.
Yeah.
Because of the budget. And we have this thing called Viking Cop that we want to make.
Yeah.
And this shows me what can be done with a low budget like this. And I was just fascinated by it. It doesn't have to be the best movie in the world.
If I knew up front that it was $30,000 and they filmed it in like a 3-day period, I would be 10 times more impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some stuff that I think you guys are overlooking about this movie that actually kind of ratchets it up from like a schlocky.
I have been looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this movie for weeks.
Yeah.
literally weeks, because I do want to hear what he has.
Because you're about to learn how you're wrong.
I think I'm going to get to learn how I'm right.
Whoa.
Well, what's interesting about this movie is that there's an argument to be made that this is actually a piece of cinema as opposed to just like a schlocky genre film.
Right.
Because if you really watch this movie carefully, the director is doing so many sophisticated things to tell this story that you don't even get upon first watch. Like I had to watch this movie I think twice in order to like start picking up on some of this stuff. There's a lot of really good foreshadowing in this film. There's a lot of really good setup, and you may not have realized that you're watching the movie wrong when you first see it. And I'm gonna
that's directed.
Hold on, let me adjust my seat real quick. Hold on.
Take us to school, man.
I'm going to go into this. So basically, every time
let me get you a whiteboard out.
Yeah. Every time the horn blows from the castle, and he knows that he's got like another bounty, he sharpens a stake, shoves it into a wall, and then like heads out. And the big twist at the end is basically the headhunter, the main character, dies. I think his name, he's referred to as father in the movie. But basically, the severed head kills him and takes over his body, and then mounts his head on the wall. And the spike that his head gets mounted on is that spike that he put up there to get this final bounty. And you see, like, as soon as he like shoves it in the wall and leaves, blood starts dripping on it from like the head above it, foreshadowing that like there's something special about this spike, and that's the spike that his head eventually ends up on. So really good use of foreshadowing there. But the biggest thing that I noticed is that at the end, when his head is mounted on the spike, he has this look on his face, and it's the exact same look he had on his face at the beginning, where like the opening shot of the movie is his face, and he's kind of like, has this blank stare, and then all of a sudden he wakes up. And it's the same blank stare that he has on his dead head when at the end of the movie. Like if you look at the last shot of the film and the first shot of the film, it's the exact same shot of his face.
I feel like you're the only person that would do that.
So time is a flat circle is what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that we're led to believe that the opening of this movie was a flashback, but it's not. It's the afterlife. This is
what?
This is the part where like he dies at the end. He wakes up in the afterlife where he saves his daughter from the monster.
Dang.
And then he spends his time protecting his daughter for the rest of eternity, because if you look at where she's camped out, it's the exact same place where her grave is. And so like basically that's his reward. That's his reward for having killed all these monsters, is that he gets to save his daughter and protect her and look after her for the rest of the afterlife.
I want to go watch this movie again now.
Did you read this, or did you notice this the first time you watched it?
I didn't notice it the first time. The first time I thought that it was just part of the story, but like upon rewatching it, if you really look at it, it fades away from that scene and then it goes into a voiceover talking about what happened to his daughter. And the entire movie leads up to that point where he dies, and this is his reward in the afterlife, is to save his daughter and actually get redeemed for like having failed her in life.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah, so like it's a much deeper movie than people give
All
it
that
credit
shit
for.
went right over my head.
You
I love
make
it.
everyone around you feel stupid all the time.
I don't feel stupid. I feel like, yeah, I want to go watch it again now.
Wow, man. I'm either exhausted or so motivated I want to run a marathon. I can't decide which one it is.
I mean, when I first
You ruined me.
When I first saw it, there's that moment where like he's staring at the camera, and then like you hear like the sound effect, and he like kind of like wakes up. And you're like, what was all that about? Was he just like staring off into space? And it's very easy to kind of like think that like just like toss that aside and be like, okay, that was just like a weird way to open the movie. But then like if you look at the final shot of the film, as like the camera shows like his severed head, it's the exact same image. And so like when he does that like head shake thing and he comes to consciousness, that's him waking up in the afterlife after dying.
I feel like I just walked into a room with Kadish and he's standing in front of a wall with a bunch of red string tied to a bunch of points.
That's
No
okay.
shit.
I kind of like that. I don't know if it's right, but I like it.
But the fact that
it's
you could
it's a good take.
It's a good take.
The fact that you could like legitimately argue that that's what happened shows that there's layers to this movie that, you know, most people kind of take for granted. Like it's a deeper movie than people think.
Did you read this?
No, this is
You were just
this is
taking
my
a shit. You
interpretation.
were just taking a shit last night, and this just came to you.
I didn't have to take a shit for this to come to me. Like
Whoa.
I was thinking about it as I was watching it.
He rubbed it on his injuries.
He did, and he felt great.
Well, what's cool is they actually show him making that potion.
Yeah.
And like
Some necromancy going on.
yeah,
there.
there's so many like wonderful like little setup things that like you really have to be paying attention to the movie to pick up on. And I feel like I've even missed like a lot just like having just watched it twice. Like I feel like I need to watch this movie like 10 times to get like everything that's going on here. But it's
some highbrow stuff, my friend.
But it's a very well made movie. I'm surprised it's from Jordan Downey, who did, you know, Thankskilling. But I feel like this is like his entry into the level of director that someone like Sam Raimi might be, or like or Peter Jackson, where they start off with these low budget schlocky genre movies, and then like they hone their craft to the point where like they're actually brilliant filmmakers, and they could be like the next generation of great filmmakers.
What is he doing now? You go, this is 4 years old.
Yeah.
It's 4 or 5 years old now, so he should be coming up with something.
Well, pre-pandemic,
I
pandemic
guess that is true. We've had a 2-3
disaster for
years.
everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it'll be. It's just. I figured that during the pandemic we'd have got a lot more writing than we did, because I'm not seeing nothing coming out that's interesting anytime.
Yeah, I mean, we're still getting movies released that were filmed pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the only thing that's getting made right now is coming out of studios that have enough money that they were able to like ride out the pandemic.
Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, Disney's
Yeah.
pumping out all the content.
Yeah. Oh, something I wanted to point out was like this was made for $30,000 and look how good it looks
Yeah.
versus like the Blair Witch Project is 20 years old and that costs
Well,
double.
okay.
That costs double.
This camera on this phone right here shoots 4K. I
Yeah.
mean, and very well too. Like it's very, very good. So I mean, they make movies now with cell phones.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But I mean, like if you look at the filmmaking ingenuity that went into this, they found like a 200-year-old stone mill that they were like, hey, this is cool. Let's shoot a movie in here. They bought a bunch of like plastic Halloween props that they like, you know, made look real. They spent money to get like some armor made. They shot this movie in 30 days with like a crew of 4 people and 1 actor. They got the daughter by writing the local school and being like, hey, do you have any students that would be interested in acting? You know, like this was like there was no production designer on this movie. The director did all the makeup effects. He did all like the set design. He did everything. And it's a real showcase to like, you know, how creative of a of a storyteller that Jordan Downey is. And you know, like it was funny because like when I rewatched our Thankskilling review, you know, I was talking about how much I enjoyed it because it's goofy, it's funny, it's got like a weird messed up sense of humor. Like the acting was terrible, you know, but
all retired porn stars in it,
Terrible.
including the turkey.
But there was something to it that led me to believe that like there was like some brilliance at work there. And when we watched Thankskilling 3, which is basically a movie about
The search for Thankskilling 2.
yeah, because the Thankskilling 2 was so bad that like all the copies of it got destroyed. But you know, you watch that movie. That movie is not good either. But there's a leap from Thankskilling that shows like an evolution in the filmmaking of it. And I feel like this movie, more than anything, showcases that Jordan Downey is a filmmaker to watch going forward because he's so creative, he's so resourceful. Like if he can do this with like a $30,000 budget, I'm like, what could he do with $30 million? You know, like there are a lot of filmmakers out there today who are far less talented, who waste way more money and make far inferior movies.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah. So let's go around and do some final thoughts on The Headhunter. We'll start with you, Matt Vader. What are your final thoughts and what would you rate it?
Oh man, my final thoughts. It's just I don't know what I can add to what I said earlier. It's a fun little passion project movie that they made here. You know, I've seen it twice. I'm probably going to go watch it again now because Kate just kind of blew my mind a little bit here. There's nothing I don't really like about this movie. The ending's kind of weird. The ending is really weird. I don't really quite know if I get exactly how the ending came about with the little head dude winning the battle. I don't know how that's possible, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter at all. It didn't take me out of it or anything. Just what they accomplished here with the budget, just super impressed me. And I felt the story was interesting and intriguing, and I just really enjoyed this movie. As far as a grade, I think I'm gonna go like 3.5 stars, I guess. I think I don't know how to judge something like this because it's so interesting and cool, but you know,
niche. I mean, it's very niche.
Yeah. I want to see this in a theater. I want to see this on a big screen. I want to do a Salty Nerd podcast film festival.
Tom has a really big TV. You can just go watch it over his house.
I want this to be screened at our first annual film festival that we have someday.
Whoa. So what you're saying is, if there was a Salty Nerd film festival one day, this is your first entry?
This I would put this in there for sure.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I support that.
It is nice and short. It would fit
it
well.
Is a good, but I support it. I understand why you're putting it in.
Tom supports independent art.
I do though. Yeah, I do.
For sure. Yeah, 3.5.
All right.
3.5.
Jude, final thoughts on what would you rate it?
So as far as the ending goes, I thought that they set up everything really perfectly because it's established that goo will keep you from being easily killed. Like he kills the bug, he puts the goo on it, the bug comes back to life. And so I think that's what makes the monster at the end so hard to defeat, and how the monster defeated him was because the monster had the goo, he didn't. So that made sense for me. My first watch, I didn't like this movie. Talking about it has made me go, a little bit more. And I feel like I need to watch it again. But as it stands now, this is probably middle of the road for me. It was 2.5 heads on a spike.
All right. Tom, final thoughts on what would you give it as a rating?
Before and after I found out it was a $30,000 movie, I had very different impressions. I didn't dislike it. It's just they do obvious. Once you know how little money they had, it's very obvious why they filmed it the way they did. The scenes are the way they are. The way it doesn't explain it. The budget explains the movie. That being said, it's visually pleasing. The costume design is very cool. It looks like somebody made it themselves in a garage, and that was exactly the intent.
Right.
I think it's cool as hell, and don't think I'd watch it again. But that being said, it's awesome. It's well done. As far as an independent film, which is basically what we're going to call it, basically an independent film. It's awesome. It's probably the best looking independent film I've ever seen. It is striking how good looking it is. And when you find out how cheap it is, it blows my mind. I can't stop going back to how little it cost to make such an attractive movie. Now, that being said, the monsters were weak as shit.
Yeah.
Okay. Those were horrible. The head at the end was terrible. They couldn't just put a guy in a costume. I mean, give me a break. That was the hard pill to swallow, right? But if you just take into it for how much it cost to make and how good they made it look for what they had, it's a goddamn miracle movie. So Invader says, I want to put this on our list of the 10 weird movies that we're going to show at our film festival. I think this sums it up completely.
Yeah.
This is a diamond in the rough. If you are a film fan, like just like Matt said, if you are a film fan, it's got something for you. It's an interesting film.
This is a film that makes me feel like a film nerd. When I never feel like a film nerd, you know, because I like big splashy popcorn movies, and this is not one of those.
Yeah, it's just a very surprising movie. It doesn't explain itself in a good way.
Yeah,
it leaves it mysterious in a good way, and it leaves it ambiguous in a good way. It's 3.5 spikes with heads on them because I think it's not a bad movie. It's totally worth a watch. It's just not for everybody, and you need to go in there with the right expectations. But ultimately, it makes me feel like I can make an awesome movie for like $30,000.
Right?
Like no shit.
I want to talk more about this film festival. We're talking about thinking 3 days, 3-day film festival.
We'll talk about it later. So I agree with you, Tom. Like, this feels like $1 million movie at least. The fact that it was made for $30,000 is very surprising. It's a movie that rewards careful watching because it's all visual. Like you can't be on your phone watching this movie and expect to get like the full experience from it. The main actor, Christopher Rygh, or
I don't know. I have him on Twitter. How do you say it?
He's a fantastic leading man. He carries this movie on his shoulders. I totally believe him when he like comes home all beat to shit and is wounded. And I also love like the quieter scenes where he's like at his daughter's grave and he's like, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you, or like, I finally avenged you and stuff like that.
Christopher Rygh.
Rygh. And so basically this movie I feel is also notable in the sense that you have a young filmmaker by the name of Jordan Downey who wrote and directed this. And I feel like he's one to watch. I feel like he's an up and comer. I feel like if Hollywood ever like got a hold of him and gave him some money to like do something of substance,
they'd ruin him.
No. I feel like he'd surprise everyone. I feel like he could be like the next big, like, Sam Raimi type director or something like that.
Give him the next season of Ring of Power and just see if it gets interesting.
Or the next Doctor Strange movie or something like that.
Give him something, because
he certainly wouldn't make it any worse.
There's no way.
Yeah.
It couldn't be more boring. That's for sure.
So I feel like this movie is deceptively sophisticated in the sense that like, on its surface, it's a very simple film. But like you can go much deeper into it and start like picking it apart. And I love movies like that. I feel like this movie, like you could watch it 10 times and each time you watch it, you find something new and interesting about it.
That's your thumbnail. Deceptively sophisticated.
Whoa.
The Headhunter.
Yeah. So I'm going to give this, I'm going to give this movie 4 heads on a spike out of 5. I feel like it's a very well done movie. And I enjoyed it tremendously. All right, guys. So that was our review of The Headhunter. Let us know what you thought of this film. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with Tom, Jude, Vader? Let us know. And let us know if you have any theories about this movie in particular. Anyway, guys, that's it for now. Matt Vader 74, where can people find out more about you?
Oh, you can find me on the socials at Matt Vader 74 on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and some of the other ones out there. And here every Saturday morning talking about stuff with Mr. Kadish on Salty Saturday Mornings and other stuff. I'm all over out there.
Jude, where can people find out more about you and our film festival, apparently?
Check back for that film festival info. But you can find me at I am Jude Juju on the socials, and check out our Facebook group at saltynerdgroup.com.
Tom, I know that you like to stay on the DL, but where can people find out more about you if they are so inclined?
In AOL chat rooms talking about conspiracies.
my at Comcast.com email account. Yeah. If you want to dig me out, I'm not active anywhere, but I do have an Instagram. You can find me Big T2681. I don't post too much, but if you reach out and say hi, we can have a conversation. And you too can tell me who you would rather recast in this movie, give it $1 million and watch it make $100 million, because it could be effing awesome.
You could.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. You can find me at Matthew Kadish, Kadish on Twitter and Truth Social. KadishBooks.com takes you to my Amazon page. And as always, stay salty, my friends.